Imagine a memorial service where politics, religion, and hero worship collide in the most bizarre way possible. Tens of thousands gathered to honor Charlie Kirk, the 31-year-old conservative firebrand who was tragically shot while on his own American comeback tour. But what should have been a tribute turned into something straight out of political thriller, complete with fiery speeches, controversial comparisons, and even a sermon-like atmosphere. So how did a memorial service for a man who founded Turning Point USA transform into one of the weirdest spectacles in recent political history? Today, we're breaking down the strangest moments from Charlie Kirk's memorial that will make you question everything you thought you knew about politics, grief, and public mourning. Buckle up, because this is not your average memorial service. Now let's dive into the service itself. From the first thing that's obvious from the get-go is how Kirk's death was treated almost like a death of a warrior, somebody who died for a cause that was so important it practically felt like a religious crusade. The word martyr was thrown around constantly, with speakers declaring that Kirk's power will only grow after his death. Take Vice President J.D. Vance, for example. He went as far as to compare Kirk to some of the most revered figures in American history, everyone from George Washington, John F. Kennedy, and even Martin Luther King. Let that sink in for a moment. Charlie Kirk, known for his often divisive and controversial stances on issues like race, gun violence, and queer rights, was being compared to one of the most iconic figures in civil rights. To put it bluntly, what? But that wasn't even one of the top 3 weirdest moments, because then enter Benny Johnson, a conservative commentator, stepped up to the mic and declared Charlie Kirk is now a martyr. His power will only grow. The crowd was absolutely on fire with woo, woo. It was like a Bible camp rock concert with hands raised in praise. If you closed your eyes, you might think you were at some culty kind of church service rather than a political content creators memorial. But this wasn't about faith. This was about political fervor and an idolization of Kirk as a symbol of the MAGA movement. Now let's talk about the intensity. The White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Stephen Miller, yes, the Santa Monica native known for his love of white nationalism, wasn't holding back either. He told the crowd, they cannot imagine what they have awakened. They cannot conceive of the army that they have arisen in us all. An army? What? This is giving like a rallying cry for an extremist uprising. The crowd also ate it up. There was woo-woos nonstops. And it was one of those moments that was like, are we paying tribute to the people's fallen leader, or are we inciting a new political war? Then we had Erica Kirk, Charlie's widow, who gave an emotional speech that had the crowd on its feet. In the speech, she forgave the alleged shooter for killing her husband. In a moment of profound grace, Erica said, "The answer to hate is not hate." As the crowd erupted into applause, some of my favorite creators put it best. Ariana Jasmine said, "Would she have forgiven him if the shooter was Muslim or if the shooter was brown?" "White supremacy is a hell of a drug," Ariana said. "It felt really off in the moment. Yes, this is a woman grieving, but she was also standing in front of thousands in a stadium, sharing what felt like a very interesting, very politically crafted message and a precursor to, it just felt like a more radical political statement and movement that's coming next." It's hard to say. We also need to take a moment to remember that this awful shooting is the #1 cause of death for children in the US. It has been 1 day since our last mass shooting, the last time I checked. There have been 350 mass shootings this year. So yeah, the choice was interesting. And then came the grand finale of all the weird. Trump's remarks. The wacky headliner. I don't really even know where to begin with this, but Trump started by calling Kirk immortal and referred to him as our greatest evangelist for American liberty. He said Charlie had a good heart and was a great American hero. But then he dropped this wacky bomb. Charlie did not hate his opponents. That's where Trump drew the line with Kirk. Trump then went on to say, "I, on the other hand, hate my opponents and I don't want the best for them." What? Like, nobody let Trump anywhere near another eulogy. He was just starting to eulogize what he called a great hero, and then also just like did a skirt to admitting that he hates his political enemies. That wasn't like the tone you'd expect at a memorial for a man who's been hailed as like a symbol of political unity. But this is the real, is he okay moment? Trump randomly then decided to bring up autism. Completely out of nowhere. Trump mentioned his plans to announce something about autism, which felt like a really weird diversion from the topic at hand. His speech also meandered into tangents about tariffs in the 2020 election. A memorial was clearly the backdrop, but the focus seemed to be on Trump's political grievances. It kept swinging back to that. And yet somehow Trump's speech kept drifting from Kirk to election grievances to talking about autism. And that wasn't even the weirdest part. Perhaps the strangest moment of all came from the final embrace. Let's take a look at the clip.
I think this might be one of the strangest interactions I've ever seen. At Charlie Kirk's memorial in Glendale, Arizona, his wife, Erica, shocked everyone with her behavior toward former President Donald Trump. After Trump gave her a normal, comforting kiss, she didn't just step back politely. Instead, she leaned fully into his arms, almost burying herself in his chest. Even after Trump offered her a brief, consoling hug, she didn't pull away. It wasn't until Trump gently pushed her back that she finally stepped away, only to immediately lean into him again. This time, Trump wrapped his arms around her tightly, almost as if he didn't know how to respond. Her eyes showed no sadness, no grief. If anything, her behavior seemed far too intimate for the situation. Even Trump himself looked slightly uncomfortable, as if he felt she was crossing a line. Some people online are saying, "You've got to be kidding me. This has to be the fakest thing I've ever seen. Fake tears, fake sadness, fake everything." To many viewers, the whole scene felt staged, like a scripted performance rather than a genuine moment of mourning. So what do you think? Was this just grief playing out in a strange way, or something much more unusual?
Erica Kirk returned to the stage to join Trump for a very intimate hug. They stood there, united in embrace, as the crowd roared with approval. If you're like me, you have to wonder, like, was this about honoring a man, or was this the conclusion of a well-orchestrated political spectacle? There was no family around. It was just them. The optics were strange. Where were Kirk's parents? Where were his friends? Just Erica and Trump standing alone on stage together in like a weird embrace, like the co-leaders of some culty movement. The intimacy felt oddly political, and it blurred the lines between personal grief and political branding. Erica wasn't just a widow being comforted. It felt like she was being positioned virtually and symbolically as the new figurehead of a cause. I mean, there were sparklers going off. It felt more like a campaign rally than a memorial. So, Charlie Kirk's memorial a fitting tribute to a fallen conservative icon, or was it an example of how politics crept into every facet of his public life, even the most sacred moments of grief? The lines were so blurred, it's hard to say, but there's one thing that's for sure. This service was as weird, intense, and as politically charged as anything we've seen in modern political history. Like, what exactly did we just witness at Charlie Kirk's memorial? Because it didn't feel like a typical memorial or a funeral. Instead, it felt quite reflective, goodbye to like tens of thousands of people packed into a stadium. It looked more, again, like a rally than a place for mourning. There was hours of Christian rock to warm up the crowd. Hands were raised, singing along before speakers even began. Idolizing Kirk as a modern-day martyr, comparing him to figures like George Washington and JFK and Martin Luther King Jr., even Jesus. The entire Trump cabinet was there, front row, turning a memorial into a show of political power. Then came Stephen Miller, delivering a speech that felt like a battle cry more than it did a eulogy, talking about armies awaken and fire burning in their hearts. And Trump, he barely spoke about Kirk at all. Instead, we veered off into weird rants about tariffs and 2020 elections and a bizarre message about autism research that sounded like it was straight out of a conspiracy textbook. The alleged shooter was barely mentioned, only to be weaponized as proof of radical left violence. Meanwhile, the crowd cheered like it was a campaign rally, giving standing ovation from everything from Erica Kirk's forgiveness of the shooter to the final moment when Trump and Erica embraced on stage. The hug felt more like a stage curtain call, again, than any political private moment of grief. Honestly, Charlie Kirk's memorial was one of the weirdest political events in recent memory. And again, the fact that it was held in a packed stadium, kicked off with thousands of hours of Christian rock and like a rivalry meets pep rally than anything close to a funeral. The entire Trump cabinet was there sitting front row like it was State of the Union. And if you've enjoyed this video and want to see more content like this, please give me a follow. Make sure you check that you are subscribed. And while I'm sitting in this chair with my dog linking my feet, we've got breaking news that Gavin Newsom is going to appear on Jimmy Kimmel's Return to Air episode tomorrow. So if you want more stories like this that hold power accountable, make sure you take a moment to make sure you're subscribed to me and that you follow me across social channels. I am Lauren P. Lauren spelled like Lorena, Lauren with an O. And leave us a comment. Let us know what you want to see more of. I read all my comments and I can't wait to hear from you. And defund the police.